Now, on the plus side of this, that we're not knocking good works. We are all about seeking a pure lifestyle. We are all about seeking to be a good person, to do good works. That is a good thing. We affirm that. But the danger in living a lifestyle that's just checklist and just check this off the box, the danger in depending on your works to save you and on your works to get you into good graces with God is that it can lead to one of two places. It can lead to pride, or it can lead to despair. This is what I mean. It can lead to pride because we check off all the boxes. And we've done well. We did what we were supposed to do. We create our own little list and we say, all right, I've done this, done this, done this, done this. Look at me, God. Look how good I've been. I've done really well this week. All right, God, if you'll open up Excel, I got the spreadsheet for you, and you can notice here, 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 and here, you don't see a box that's not checked. God, I have done what I was supposed to do. Look how good I am. And we begin to bargain with God. God, look, I've done all this, God. The least you could do is fill in the blank. God, if you do this for me, then I'll add some more things to the list. God, there's even some things that really didn't even make the list, but I just kind of did them anyway, so you can look at that and see how good I am. It's kind of one of those don't let your left hand see what the right hand's doing type thing. So God, come on, look at my list. Look how good I have become. And our hearts are filled with pride. And our hearts are filled with look how good we are. And we try to maneuver God, bring God into just kind of this little ATM machine where he kind of does our will and we kind of manipulate him by our good works. Or it can lead to despair. It can lead to despair because I couldn't do the list. I tried really, really hard. I tried to do the list, but it was just too much. It was tiring. It was hard. I'm sinful. I stumbled. I messed up again. I kept trying and trying and trying, but I can't be perfect like that. It's just too hard. We give up and we move away and we say, no, I'm done. I need a break. I just can't do all these rules and regulations anymore. And we detach ourselves from any kind of relationship, and it's all about the rules, regulations, and doing the right type of stuff. Now, this is one extreme that we can go to. The other extreme here is called license. And when I say license, think driver's license. Kids, when you get your driver's license, you get freedom, right? Freedom is the big word over here on license. This is the polar opposite of legalism, where we say, I'm bound to my duty, I'm bound to my good works and my checklist. Over here, we say, no. God has freed me from my sin. I am free from sin. I can sin all I want to now because God has forgiven me of my sin. Huh? No, you're not free to sin. You're free to be like Jesus. You're free to be like Christ. You're free to good works. But someone who lives over here says, no, I'm free. I can go ahead and sin, right? Because God's going to forgive me. And so temptation comes our way and we say, well, God's already removed my sin from me, so I can go on with this sin. And I just go right into that temptation. A good example of this is the audience of the book of Romans. Paul the Apostle wrote the book of Romans to the church in Rome, and they were going through this very issue. They understood that they were free in Christ. They were not bound by moral traditions and these rules and regulations, but they were abusing that freedom. They were trampling on the free gift of forgiveness that God had given them. And so they were stuck in this, and so Paul writes to them and says, well, shall we keep on sinning so that grace will increase? No, that's not why you were saved. That's not why you were set free from those rules. And the gist of Romans, the gist of the book of Romans is this, that if you're living this way and you just go right on sinning because you think you're free to sin all you want to, then that may be evidence that your faith is not genuine. That may be evidence that you're just in this because you found a free way to do what you want to do, which is sin more. And so we've got this pendulum that we can swing to one way or the other, and it helps to know what our natural tendency is. It helps to know, because if we're just left on our own, every single person in this room, we gravitate towards one side or the other. Like if you probably came from a pretty religious maybe a real strict religious background where there's a lot of discipline, a lot of things that you had to do to be good, you might kind of default to this legalism. And that you might just kind of drift this way. If you didn't come from a religious background, maybe you stumbled onto Christianity a little later on in life or whatever, then you may drift over here towards license. And it's great that you understand that you're free in Christ and that you're not bound by that. Great, it's wonderful. But you can take it too far and use it as an excuse to sin more. And so the center is the gospel. That we're not free to sin more. We're free so that we can produce good works, so that we can look like Jesus, but those good works don't save us. We stay right here where we're free in Christ, but it produces in us good works. This is the balance that all Christians must find. And it's hard. I mean, your entire life is going to be spent going back and forth and back and forth. My natural tendency, I don't know why, but my natural tendency, I drift towards license. I do. I drift towards, well, God's going to forgive me. Let's go ahead. That's my natural bent. And I think God pairs people up to kind of balance them out. My wife's is towards legalism. That's her natural drift. And so we kind of keep each other together. And we kind of keep each other in check. And it's great. It can be scary if you have two people married to each other who kind of drift this way or drift that way. Then you can kind of compound on that, and it could go really bad for you. So know your tendencies. Know if you're kind of a rule keeper. And, I mean, you're a checklist man and you're an Excel spreadsheet dude. And, I mean, if that's you, I don't know, maybe break a rule or so. I don't know. Maybe get a little bit more mess in your life. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I'm not telling you to go sin. I'm just saying that, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Break out of the box a little bit, Your good deeds are a pile of rags in front of God. You're not saved because you're good. You're good because you're saved. That's the result of my salvation or my good works. And if you drift over here, if this is your natural tendency, then set a rule for crying out loud. Make a rule, make a check box. That may help you out. You may need to get some discipline in your life to kind of bring you back over towards this way. And so you see, the gospel is we're free in Christ, but we're free to live like Christ. And so this is the goal, to live right here in the center. And this is hard. And this is going to launch into our discussion about Sunday school classes, because how the gospel influences our Sunday school classes is that our Sunday school classes can drift one way or the other as well. It's very, very simple. We can drift one way or the other. We can become a very legalistic Sunday school class where it's a closed group, and no, you got to have this moral code of behavior to get in this group. And if you sin, if you mess up, if you don't keep our rules, you're out. Or we can drift over here where, hey, man, let's just go do whatever we want to, because we're just a bunch of Christians who are free in Christ. We can go sin all we want to now. It's very easy for groups, Sunday school groups, friendships, whatever it may be, to drift towards this side or the other. What I want to do now is going to compare and contrast for you what I'm going to call a community of performance versus a community of grace. A community of performance where it's all about the rules and it's all about the right behavior and it's all about the gotta be perfect so I can fit in and be accepted because of my behavior, versus a community of grace where we don't allow any sin, but there's mercy and there's freedom and there's humility. So these are going to be on the screen for you to help you out. And let's compare and contrast these and talk about our Sunday school. A community of performance. People talk about grace, but communicate legalism. Grace is talked about. Yeah, we'll talk about your freedom. But what is really communicated, what is really, the meat and potatoes of the whole thing, it's legalism. It's this side. And on a community of grace, people can see grace in action. People can see grace in action. It's evident. It's in the lives. It's coming out of the leader's mouth. It's coming everywhere. It's just talked about out in the open. Next, unbelievers can't imagine themselves as Christians. They just can't. Unbelievers will look at a group of Christians in a Sunday school classroom and think, that is just weird, man. They just do some weird things in there.